We're all set, Pam? Okay. Want to give Pam a hard copy, Bill?
Charlie?
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. This is Charlie Baraboo, the chairman of the Street and Alley Committee meeting. We're calling it to order at 1:30 p.m. We have all members of our committee here, Councillor Johnson, Councillor Barnzelli, and myself. We have our city administrator, Brett C. Benny's here. We have our clerk finance director, Pamela Levine. We have Matt Reed in our audience, who is our engineer of record. We have Mr. Bill Hennis, who is the supervisor of public works. We've got Mr. Duranko in the audience, and can't quite see through this thing. You're Dinko, right? Okay. All right, Mr. Dinko. And that concludes who's in the chambers for this meeting. I'm going to deviate a little bit. I'm going to start with item number 2, the 2021 street project financing update. Mr. George Eilertson of Northland Securities and Mr. Paul Steinman will be on the Zoom to discuss this, and we have them on Zoom right now. So, George, I guess you're up to explain this to us. So what you have, we have some information in front of us.
Well, good afternoon, committee members. Paul and I are here today to talk about the preliminary schedule for the issuance of bonds for the 2021, phase 1 of the street and utility improvement projects. So I believe Pam had distributed the calendar to the group.
That is correct.
And good. So nothing in stone except for the very first item, February 18th. But Paul and I talked about just, of course, the various steps related to the issuance of the bonds. And, certainly there's some milestones here that need to occur. Most notably the construction bids and getting those in. Then we can size the bonds. Baker Tilly and Northland can work on that. But really, group, just wanted to kind of give you a little perspective on here are the steps that are involved and kind of the relative timing for the issuance of the bonds. Paul, would you like to add to that?
Nope, nothing to add. Good opening, good summary.
And actually, one thing to note, certainly these dates can change a little bit, but as well, the one-page overview that you've seen in your packets when we've discussed in the past, certainly that'll get updated as we go forward, especially when Matt gets the construction bids in. But as we note on this overview, we've got working on getting a bond rating assigned. We do say to be determined. That's something Paul and I can review more. What we'll likely do is come to a committee of the whole meeting. We have that on this calendar in mid-March. That coincides with when you've got construction bids in hand, so we can kind of give an update, if you will, on size of bonds and a better perspective on timing as well. But what this calendar should do is provide a date when you would issue the bond, certainly after you've got construction bids in hand, and it provides the needs of the bonds in mid-July. Now we've got this as a conservative starting point. The city might get some invoices or maybe the first month of invoice presented for payment before that. And that's something Paul and I could certainly work with bond counsel on to get a resolution which would allow you to pay for it out of cash on hand and then pay yourselves back later once the bond proceeds are available. So, so committee, we just, again, wanted to give a brief overview of this calendar just so that you know that we're working with your your staff at City Hall on getting a document together and getting a timeline put together for getting the financing in place.
Okay, George, thank you. I got to ask Matt Reed, our engineer, a question here. Matt, when is the start of the construction going to start on this project? I don't remember offhand. I thought it was early end of May, early June.
Yeah, it'll depend on the weather, of course.
Yeah, of
but
course.
I would anticipate it would start sometime end of May, first part of June.
Okay. So are we sitting here waiting too long to get these ratings on the bonds and stuff then? With those dates you got set up there? That's my question. If we don't get it back, how are we going to get the actual dollars with a good rating until we in? Can't we do those ratings quicker?
Certainly good question, Charlie. Again, Paul and I went with kind of a conservative approach here of getting the construction bids in, allowing enough time for getting a bond rating, and then getting the bonds issued. So we can certainly revisit that if there's opportunity to move things up a little bit. Of course, there's Memorial Day in there. There's July 4th. There's a couple of those types of holiday dates in there that we'll want to avoid. Maybe those types of being 1 to 2 days around those types of dates.
Yeah,
but if there is opportunity to move it closer, we could. But certainly we want to wait until you've got the construction bids in hand.
Well, they're coming in March. They're coming in March, it looks like. So why is the whole month of April being left with nothing to do? That whole month is missing on this. I'd like to see it moved up personally from dealing with Street and Alley Committee for years and years. I'd like to see those dates moved up to get this stuff done so we can get started. And we don't have a holdup in the fall for construction. Because we don't know what the weather's going to be like all summer. Is that possible for you guys to take another look at that?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Certainly, this is a preliminary schedule, so it's something that we'll certainly take your comments into consideration. It is important to try to get into the bond market sooner than later, I would think, with the favorable interest rates. So Paul and I can talk offline and just revisit if there is the opportunity to move things closer.
The reason I'm asking this question is we're seeing an uptick in some bond ratings right now. So I'm concerned with everything going on at the federal level. That stuff might start to change pretty fast. So the quicker we get in to get our bonds, the better off we might be with a rate. That's my concern. Does that make sense? If you guys can relook at that, because I see you got it coming to the committee of the whole down the road. If we need another one quicker than that, we certainly can have it.
So Charlie, hi, it's Paul Steinman. I'd just comment, I think we can tighten this up a little bit. If you're going to have bids in hand on the 23rd of March, I think we could tighten this up a bit. However, with regard to the rating, we're working with staff on some ways to potentially improve your rating or bring your rating back into the A category at least. And even based on this current schedule, we will not have really been able to implement any of those strategies. So whether we move this up or leave this as is, or even move it out, I think the rating environment is going to be relatively unchanged.
Okay, I understand that from you, Paul.
Saying that, we certainly can move it up.
I would like you, from my perspective, as a chairman of this committee, I'd like to see you try to do that. And I'll take some comments now and questions from our committee to you. Councillor Johnson.
Thank you. My concern is having the cash on hand. May tends to get a little tight because we haven't gotten our summer disbursement from the state for regular stuff. So that would be my concern, that we could just quote pay out of pocket and then get reimbursed. I think that would give Sherry some hives if that was going to be the actual plan, and I'd like to avoid doing that. we are hoping to get our reimbursement from the state for our bridge. That's been spent 3 times already, so reimbursing ourselves from that's not an option. So I have to agree with Counselor Baraboo that I'd like to see us have have what we need before we have to start borrowing from ourselves again for another project. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Barnzell, you have any questions?
No, I'm concerned, like one of the guys said, July 4th is a Sunday.
Yeah, I'm not so worried about that because we'll have the project started in construction. You're going to have holidays that get in there, so.
Don't we want to start before that?
Oh, yeah, I want to start the beginning of June, the end of May if the
May?
road stuff is correct. So, Mr. Ennis, do you have any questions on this with, because you're going to be involved with this along with Matt? Yeah. Yeah, because we don't get our state payment till what, after July usually comes in August, doesn't it? And so that the 5.4 million isn't coming until August either. Yep. Yep, that's my concern. That's why I'd like to see it moved up if possible, so we can get some of that stuff in the bonds here earlier, the bond money here, once we get all the construction bids in and decide which ones we're going to take. Make sense to you, gentlemen?
It does. I would expect that, and again, that's the value of this type of a meeting, getting your questions and comments, because, again, Paul and I can work on process and dates and, very possibly by, you'll have a much better indication when you see that March 16th committee of the whole meeting. Have a better update for you then.
Okay, that'll be good, because I see there's nothing scheduled the whole month of April, so that was one of my concerns, that we don't have anything scheduled in April. That's 30 days that there's nothing there. So take a look at it, please, and then,
Charlie is Paul. This calendar is summarized, I would say. There's a whole bunch of things that do go on between awarding your construction bids and getting to that preliminary official statement point, but include them. But either way, I look at it, I think we can tighten this up a bit.
okay, I appreciate that.
Yep.
Matt, has the state approved our plans yet or not? They have, so we're out of that loop, so that's good. Okay, any further questions on this subject? What do we need for a motion here, just to, we don't need one actually, do we? Yeah, this is just informational. Anybody else in the audience have a question? Okay. Steve, do you have any more? Carl? Okay, then we'll move on. Gentlemen, see if you can put something together by that March 10th or March 16th Committee of the Whole with a little better updated calendar. Okay, I appreciate it very much. Thank you. Anything else you gentlemen want to tell us?
No, that was really our objectives for this meeting, was review preliminary dates and certainly once you see construction bids and we can resize the preliminary numbers you've seen for a bond. But yeah, more to come certainly on that. But thank you for your questions today.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. And if you need to leave and don't want to listen to the rest of the meeting, you're welcome to leave. Okay, and we'll move on now to item number 1, Chestnut Street signal improvements. Has everybody had a chance to read the synopsis? I shouldn't say synopsis, the long-range plan on signal lights. Bill, do you want to, or Matt, are you the one in charge of this, or Bill?
Afternoon, committee. I don't know if you're aware, but right before Christmas time, we had the lights on Fourth Avenue go out. They automatically default into the blinking red lights. And our power supply, what we have available to us is very limited. Again, looking back at this document, you'll see that those were originally installed in 1981. And they're in terrible shape. I mean, we can get some of the packs that go into it, but the control module is obsolete, not available. So if one of those do go, I hate to say it, we're done. I mean, you'll be at flashing red until we figure out some other way to accommodate it being, have somebody restring basically a whole new intersection. So when we had Hometown Electric come and look at it to help us out, we're not 100% sure what fixed it. Underneath each one of those light poles in the bottom end, there's actually a splice box in there where you have approximately 24 wires going in and out with a bare connection block underneath there. The only thing that's holding them together really is the green copper residue that's left underneath there. I mean, we touched some of the wires and the insulation is actually coming off. And by this report, you can see, I mean, they're to the end of their useful life. It's at 40 years old right now. And subsequently, we thought we better have them analyzed and bring this to your attention so we can figure out how we can move forward. Again, worst case scenario, we'll be looking at four-way stops for a considerable length of time if we do have a total failure of it. I guess I was a little surprised when they looked at some of the actual light standards, why some of them are in good shape, that in one case, being the one on 4th Avenue, they actually recommended that we take the cameras off them, you know, do the additional weight. So I think it'd be prudent for the committee to start thinking about the sizable investment that this is going to take to remedy it. I mean, I've talked to Britt a little bit about it, and it's been 20 years since Chestnut's been freshened up and 40 years since it's been reconstructed. It might be time to start putting that into the loop to start looking about what we can do, and then include this as part of those. Matt might be able to help a little bit with this one, but there are some of those light semaphores that are on state aid routes. So hopefully we could get them to participate a little bit in the cost. I wouldn't hold my breath on big participation, but you know, we'll look at other avenues to get them funded also. But you're looking at a very sizable investment to remedy the situation.
Yeah, when I added it up, it was like $500,000 almost.
I think that'd be a little short even, Charlie.
Okay, but I know what the estimates were, that you had 95,000, you had, I missed a subtotal, yeah, you're right, it's over 500. And that's-
Again, I mean, I don't think we're looking at a decision here now, but I think it's something that we have to, I don't want to say expedite a decision, but it's something that we can't just keep pushing on the back burner because we're really past the stage of trying to repair it. I mean, there's a possibility that if the conduits are still good underneath, you know, Chestnut and the avenues, that we could restring the wires, but it doesn't solve the problem. The controllers are, and we can't get parts for the controllers, which actually control the function of the lights.
Okay, Matt, a quick question for you. Did you do the estimate on these lights, or who did that?
No, one of our traffic signal experts, John Gray, did the estimates.
Oh, so it's from your company, though?
Yeah.
Okay. What if we took and looked, our second phase of this street project starts when, in 22 or 3, 22?
23.
23. What if we took a look at maybe by that time adding a little more money to the bond that we're going to sneak out and put the plans together for that? Because I noticed from the preliminary they sent out for values on homes, it isn't that cost prohibitive unless you get up in over $150,000 value on homes. We don't have a lot of those on these routes that we're going to be using, but we could the whole main street, I don't know how we would do that. I've never done that. Could go across the board, I suppose, for all the residents in Virginia on that portion of it, instead of just the streets that we're working on. What's your thoughts on that, Brett?
That's probably a good idea.
Okay. Can you put together, Matt, I know it'll cost a little more money, can you put together plans from '23, and we'll see what we can do, and if we had to put four-way stops until then. But I think it's imperative we get this done.
I think, yes, certainly we can. I think Bill raised a good point, though. I think we should probably have some more discussion about Chestnut Street as a whole.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about,
Oh,
not
okay.
just the lights, the whole street,
Okay.
okay? Counselor Johnson?
Why do we have 5 sets of stoplights on Chestnut Street? I mean, what, in all reality, why do we need to spend $500,000 on replacing stoplights? Can't we put up some fancy stop signs?
Good.
On the avenue, 6th Avenue and 2nd Avenue at least, or maybe even 4th because of where the fire hall is located.
Yeah,
currently.
but I'm just looking at
I don't know that 5 is
all
needed.
of them as opposed to definitely Second Avenue because that's a thoroughfare, you know, Fourth Avenue makes sense. Maybe the even ones, Second, Fourth, and Sixth, because of the interchanges there, but the other side, you know, the school's gonna go away, so, as a high school, which means less teenage traffic, to be quite honest. So maybe that's part of the discussion of Chestnut Street as a whole is, and then maybe the types of, do we need to have stoplights that extend over the street, or can we get single pole stoplights on the corners? You know, those kinds of questions that I'm guessing would be a little less expensive, but being able to have them up to date and updatable as we move forward too, that would be the other thing I'd want to make sure we were addressing, that we're not buying something that's a fix for now. And then, and this is 40 years, but in 40 years, who knows what, maybe we'll only need a Second Avenue stoplight. So that's my perspective. Let's save some money and look at, do we need to have stoplights on all of the avenues on Chestnut Street?
That's a good comment there, Counselor Johnson. Matt, can you put together a scenario with both? For sure need them at Second Avenue. We need them at Fourth Avenue and Sixth, because those are the big traffic runners. Third Avenue doesn't have that much traffic usually, although it will probably increase once we switch those one-way streets out. It'll probably increase there. But we're not going to do that right now with this project going on this year, because you've already explained the reason why we shouldn't do it right now until we're completed, because we've got all that demolition stuff coming down the one-way street. So when the school demos next year. Britt, I think what we should do is talk with everybody and maybe set up another meeting just on Chestnut Street project. Okay, and I'll let you or Pam schedule, make sure everybody's free and available on a date. Okay, is that satisfactory? I don't think we need a motion on that. Okay, thank you, gentlemen. Sorry, Carl, I forgot to ask you if there was any questions you had on that. Carl, do you have any questions on the street lights?
Well, are we going to do anything with Fourth Avenue, First Street North at the fire department, or are we going to?
Well, we'll leave it go as it is, because they need lights on Fourth Avenue for the interrupt, and I'm assuming these will be interruptible lights for the fire department. Because they've got the interruptible stuff on Highway 53 now, I believe it's all installed and stuff, and we need to have interrupts on Fourth Avenue for sure.
Where I'm
Maybe
going with
second.
this is if and when we get the new fire department, we wouldn't have to have all that on First Street.
No, we wouldn't.
Oh,
That's another consideration to bring up at our next meeting on this. Okay? Got a long ways to go on that new public safety center, though. All right, with that takes care of item number 1. Let's move on to item number 3, the snow and ice removal policy. I gotta find it here, so hang on a second. Okay. Now, I've gone through it and read it, and I didn't see anything that stood out. We haven't changed any of this yet, have we, Brett?
This is I think, the third draft.
Is this the updated, is this the updated one? Which paragraph did we change? I don't see it highlighted.
I just printed it. It's getting to be very lengthy when I do the red lines through.
Oh, okay, okay,
Quite a few changes.
okay.
The biggest part was the changing from Public Works Director or their designee was throughout the whole thing. And then I did confirm that with the state statute reads, it's got to be declared as a snow emergency route for us to do removal right away of vehicles. Otherwise,
have
it has to
not-
do 24 hours.
Whoops. We haven't done that yet, so we.
Nope, that's the next
la-
item on
that's
the
next
agenda.
item. Okay, sorry, I'm getting some feedback here. Any questions from Counselor Johnson?
I'm just looking at the map of the central business district. Why do we not include 8th Street past the miners and that as a business district?
Emergency plow route.
Okay,
The blue is emergency plow route. That would be
okay,
the
so
snow
they're
route.
not mutually exclusive. Thank you.
Now, all the blue are the emergency routes, so, and those, I looked at them, those look fine to me, so the map looks good. Carl, any questions on the snow removal policy? Are we looking at doing something different? I see there's mailbox, standard installations. Are we looking to do something different there? Along these streets?
The rules that were always supposed to be in place that nobody follows. So we're just going to include it as an informational piece as part of our policy, is that your mailbox is supposed to be by US postal regulations at this height and this far out.
I know, and they're,
Yep.
yeah, that's right. And now with looking at what we're going to do with the street construction, because I think we're putting most of these reconstruction streets, no boulevards, correct? They're all going to be sidewalk and curb, right? So putting a mailbox up of that type, so the postal people can get to it, might be tough, except for like Midway and some of the areas. Yeah. Yeah, that's what I was just going to mention. So we should maybe take a look at tightening up that and making sure residents know that they need to go to conformity with the Postal Service. We can do that in-house, can't we, Brett? Okay. Do you want a motion, anybody on that? I don't think we need one.
I would move it to the committee of the whole meeting for,
Okay, that sounds good. Is there support? Okay, it's been moved and supported to move this item, the mailboxes, to the committee of the whole. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
the whole policy,
Yeah,
including
the whole
mailboxes.
policy, yeah. Okay. So, motion carries by committee 3-0. Okay, let's move on to the last item, which is snow emergency routes, which we really don't have a policy on.
Don't have an ordinance about snow emergency routes.
Yeah.
That's why we don't have any. So this would now allow us to create that blue route into a snow emergency route.
Yep. And that gives us a lot of options. If we have to tow vehicles and
Does.
stuff, they can be towed right away.
They can be towed immediately.
Yeah. If we declare an emergency and get it out to the public in plenty of time. So does anybody have any problems with routes? Counselor Johnson?
There's some gender wording in here with his, our city administrator is not. And then the other thing is it says
Oh,
the
yeah.
city administrator or fire chief. I would like to add or police chief because our fire chief has a tendency to go out of town for a couple of weeks at a time, and that would mean Britt couldn't leave town. The chance of all three of them being gone at the same, and add or designee at the end of it.
Yeah, that's a
So
good
that
thought.
way, should anything happen where three people are out, we still have people to take care of it. Otherwise, I think it's good. I think this is long overdue. I didn't read it real close, I'll be very honest. Is there anything about signage that we'll be putting up signs along those routes?
Statute requires we have to. If you
Okay.
declare a snow emergency route, you have to have signage on the route,
And that's a state statute?
state statute.
Okay,
Yep.
perfect, thank you.
Okay,
What this does say is we will publish every year the route and
Yeah.
what's going on in the city hall and also in the newspaper, and we'll blast it on social media and everywhere else.
with those corrections that Counselor Johnson suggested, we just need to have an update for the Committee of the Whole meeting. Gentlemen that work in Public Works back there, do you have any questions about emergency snow route? That'll help you guys out too when you're plowing. Mr. Hennis, being the director. Okay. Carl, any questions on the emergency routes?
Our sidewalks, what is our ordinance for sidewalks? That's not number one priority, is it?
No, slow down at the end.
Main arteries, the main streets, and then maybe the second day you do the. Okay. Well, that's how I felt for years. It's been like that. They don't come there the same day. They're there maybe Monday, they're there on Thursday. But they get it done, your crew.
Okay, Counselor Johnson, any more questions on your part? Okay, so we'll bring that back then for action at the Committee of the Whole then, when we get those corrections in there. Okay, is there any, I don't see we have another item on here, but as long as we're here, is there any other street and alley stuff we need to bring up at this point? Unless we bring up that 10th Street South between 4th Avenue, that gentleman, Mr. Percott issue, because I see we got an email on that again. And the email stated that we've been monitoring that street. We haven't seen more than 4 cars on that whole street as we're monitoring it, so
Yesterday at 4:30 was the first day I saw 5 cars.
5 cars, okay. Yeah, and I haven't seen
There was
any,
somebody physically dropping off at that time, so that's one of the cars.
and I think the home there has designated a park behind. And I don't know, I've been by there a number of times and I haven't seen more than 3 cars. So I think it's a moot point that we can just, okay, and we can just tell them that. I'll give them a call and tell them that, okay? Oh, have you? Okay. We have some ammunition now. We have some ammunition now with observation of that street. Okay. Anything else, Bill, that you have? Okay. Counselor Johnson, anything else? Okay. Matt, anything? No. Okay, Mr. Duranko or Mr. Draw a blank here. Yeah, Mr. Dinko. Sorry about that, Mr. Dinko. Okay, Carl, anything?
Doesn't pertain to this, but I'm concerned about our workers. Is it close to being 95% back to work? Because last time it was in January, remember what, we were going to talk again in February, but they're back to work? Great. Thank you.
Okay, Britt, anything that you want to add? Okay, hearing no other comments, we will adjourn the meeting at